केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कर कमलवरे नाकाम् अद्भुत शृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे Nrsimhadev Jaya Nrsimhadev Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol
Shri Nrsimhadeva Bhagavan ki Prahlada Maharaj ki Go Premanandi. No, so they can see. Yeah, I wanted to see Prabhupada, that's all. I've got the verse here. That's fine. So everybody can see the beautifully written Sanskrit shloka on the board. See how much devotion is in the writing of the board, or the shloka. Nice, huh? Is it nice? Yes? Yeah. Beautiful. And thank you, Aradhya, for your beautiful kirtan. Today is a special day, of course. Everybody knows it's Nrsimhadev's appearance day, Nrsimha Caturdasi. And Balaram and a few of the boys have got a soccer match straight after class. So I asked him what time so I can get some. He said just after class. So that could be 10 o'clock, after class could be 11 o'clock. He might miss his soccer class, but I hope not. Yes, the other day when we had a kirtan here in the evening, Balaram was here, and I seem to always pick on Balaram. Balaram was here and he had a t-shirt on, and on the t-shirt it said, I have a hero and I call him Dad. And then I thought, well, that's a nice t-shirt. And then I asked his mother about the t-shirt, and she sent me a photo of Balaram and his father, Amagorangapu, and he's got a t-shirt, I have a hero and I call him Son. So they've both got heroes, and we all have heroes. We need heroes, right? Mum and Dad are good heroes, heroines. But today I wanted to talk about the hero's journey of... I've already... Jai. Thank you. The hero's journey of Prahlad Maharaj. Because this Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam there's something like 3,000 personalities, human and celestial beings that are mentioned in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And of them, Sri Prahlad is very, very important. So Prahlad's journey is very important, and it starts in the womb, as we know. It's a very unusual hero's journey, you can say, which starts in the womb of his mother, Kayadu. And of the 30 or so incarnations in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Lord Nrsimhadeva is very important. It's said that three of all the incarnations of Krishna are their Shadguna Purna, they're full avatars. That is Lord Krishna, Lord Ramchandra, and Nrsimhadeva. He's a very important personality, and he appears every kalpa. He's also known as a kalpa avatar. So Lord Nrsimhadeva comes, and that means Jai and Vijay come, they do the cursing, and they come, and Prahlad Maharaj comes, and Kayadu comes, and Hiranyakashipu comes. Every time Nrsimhadeva comes, but there's some variety, some variation in his coming in different kalpas. And the particular appearance of Nrsimhadeva that we are most familiar with, most of us, is given to us from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And the Bhagavatam for Gaudiya Vaishnavas is our authority. It's the one go-to pramana. We can be sure, if we get it from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, that this is the gold standard of evidence, the gold standard of all scriptures. Sarva-vedanta sadam hi Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ishyate. And it's said that those who hear Śrīmad Bhāgavatam every day, shradhaya, shrindvata shradhaya nityam, grinatascha svacheshtitam, kalena natidirgena, bhagavan vishite ridhi. Very quickly, Krishna will appear in the heart, vishite ridhi, in the heart of the devotee who hears. Kalena natidirgena, within a very, very short time, by hearing attentively and with great faith and attention. Shraddhaya nityam, every day. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. That's a verse from the second canto of Bhagavatam. And the next verse says that when we hear the pastimes of Krishna and his incarnations and the devotees, that the pastimes enter into the heart of the devotee. There's Pravishta Kanarandrina. They go through the ear, and Prabhupada translates it that they sit in the heart. Sonam Bhava Sarohitam. They sit on the lotus flower of the devotee's relationship with Krishna. They're hearing the katha of Krishna, Krishna katha, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And it cleanses the heart of all the dust and the misgivings, the lust, the anger, and the lamentation are cleansed. And the analogy is given in that verse that it's just like Salilasiyata Sharat, like the autumnal rains cleanse the muddy waters. So the hearing of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, the narration of the pastimes and activities of the Lord in His various incarnations, and the devotees' journeys in their life, their heroes' journeys, they cleanse the heart of the devotees. And so we relish to hear those pastimes. And the last thing that I wanted to say in terms of an introduction and the glorification of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is that it's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it says the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is exactly like Krishna. That's Tulya Krishna Bhagavata. Vibhu Savashraya, they're exactly the same. Krishna and Bhagavatam are the same. Bhagavatam is a manifestation of Krishna in words and in syllables. Prati shloke, prati akshare. In every shloka, in every syllable in Bhagavatam, we can derive many different types of meaning to inspire the devotees. Nana vidohoya. So many different aspects to hearing just Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And therefore the devotees feel comfortable with just hearing Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. We don't have to nananyatya rati svakit. We don't have to switch it. We don't have to go to any other literature but Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So today we're going to enter into the unlimited storehouse of knowledge, wisdom, and nectar in the pastime of Lord Nrsimhadeva, and of course Prahlad Maharaj is most important in this pastime. So we're going to hear, follow Prahlad Maharaj in his journey. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we begin our recitation today from the Bhagavatam in the 6th chapter of Canto 7. The chapter is entitled Prahlad Instructs His Demoniac Schoolmates. And this is, you can say this is part of the beginning. I referred to the hero's journey, and it's something that I got from Yogeshwar Prabhu, who has studied various literatures and done a lot of analysis of transcendental literatures. And he uses this schema for a framework for understanding and applying the teachings of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And in the hero's journey, there are 3 basic stages. In fact, our son Madhu, he was studying one time film and production, and he said there's 3 basic standards as a template for all film production. Maybe not in Bollywood, but in most other film production. Bollywood has 1 act, I think. 1 act, and it's singing, music, and some fighting, and some guns, and some motorbikes. But in other genres, in other productions, there's a 3-act production. And the first act is, it's a call to action, adventure. It's something that everybody is interested in. What is the call to action or the adventure? And then in the standard kind of schema, there is a refusal to go for it. And then there's a meeting of a mentor. The spiritual master comes in, some guide, some shiksha, some instruction comes there to help us to overcome any feeling of inhibition or insecurity or uncertainty so that we can go forward. And then the next act is going through the threshold into Act 2. And in the threshold there's the tension in the narrative, in the production. The tension is the trials and the tribulations and the allies and the enemies. Of course, Prahlad Maharaj doesn't have allies and enemies. But in that part of the analysis, there's the tension. And then there's a climax within that section. And then the hero, he receives some boon, some ultimate boon or benediction or the sword or some kind of the Holy Grail. He gets something that's significant, the Jayapataka, the flag of victory. And then he goes back. There's two worlds. There's the ordinary world where he started the journey. Of course, Prahlad Maharaj is not ever in an ordinary world, but he starts a journey there. He goes into a special world, and in that special world, he's developing all his realization. You can say nididhyasanam, it's internalizing this understanding. And then back through into the third section or the third act, it's a place where he goes back to home. Sounds familiar? Back to home, back to the other world. It's actually back into the ordinary world, but with a mission and with knowledge. Goes back into that world as a transformed person. In any good narrative, there must be transformation. And so the hero's journey is about transformation. And we see that as particularly very obvious. I mean, the stages are very obvious in Ramayana, for example, and many of the stories and narratives in the Mahabharatam. Maybe it can't be so easily applied in Krishna book. It can be, but it's very, sometimes we hesitate to use these mundane, so-called mundane schemas. But I thought it would help us to guide, to give some direction and structure to today's class, the hero's journey. So this is a verse for today. We're starting with Prahlad Maharaj's, school is always an adventure. Gurukul is an adventure. Any school is an adventure. We go there and it's a call to adventure, to meet your friends. Why do you go to school? You go to meet friends. Not many people go to school to learn lessons or anything. What did you learn today at school? You ask some kid, what did you learn today at school? Nothing. Why did you go to school? I went to school to play with my friends. So, it's a call to adventure. Of course, Prahlad is different. So let's recite this verse together as normal in Bhagavatam. Tasmat sarveshu bhurteshu dayam kuruta soridham bhavam asuram unmuccha yayatushyaty dakshajaha tasmat sarveshu bhurteshu dayam kuruta soridham bhavam asuram unmuccha yayatushyaty dakshajaha. Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu Sarasvata Saridam Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu dayam kuruta soridham bhavamasuram unmucca yaya tushyatya dakshaja. Ladies. Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu dayam kuruta soridam bhavamasuram mucca tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu dayam kuruta soridam bhavamasuram unmucca yaya tushyata dakshaja. Tasmat sarveshu bhuteshu dayam kuruta soridam bhavamasuram unmucca yaya tushyata dakshaja. Tasmat, therefore, sarveshu, to all, bhuteshu, living entities, dayam, mercy, kuruta, show, soridham, friendliness, bhavam, the attitude, asuram, of the demons, who separate friends and enemies, unmucca, giving up, yaya, by which, tushyati, is satisfied, adakshajaha, the Supreme Lord who is beyond the perception of the senses. Srila Prabhupada's translation and purport. Therefore, my dear young friends born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the conception of material knowledge, will be satisfied. Give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity and duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well-wishers. Purport. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 1855, Bhaktimam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvataha. One can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service. Prahlad Maharaj ultimately instructed his class friends, the sons of the demons, to accept the process of devotional service by preaching the science of Krishna consciousness to everyone. Preaching is the best service to the Lord. The Lord will immediately be extremely satisfied with one who engages in this service of preaching Krishna consciousness. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 1869. Nachatasman manushyesu kaschin me priya kritamaha. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. If one sincerely tries his best to spread Krishna consciousness by preaching the glories of the Lord and his supremacy, even if he is imperfectly educated, he becomes the dearmost servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is bhakti. As one performs this service for humanity, without discrimination between friends and enemies, the Lord becomes satisfied, and the mission of one's life is fulfilled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised everyone, listen to the advice of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised everyone to become a guru devotee and preach Krishna consciousness. Yare deka tare kaha Krishna upadesh. That is the easiest way to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By such preaching, the preacher becomes satisfied, and those to whom he preaches are also satisfied. This is the process of bringing peace and tranquility to the entire world. Bhaktaram jagitapasam, savaloka maheshwaram, suridam savabhutanam, yatvamam shantim richchati. One is expected to understand these three formulas of knowledge concerning the Supreme Lord. That He is the Supreme Enjoyer, that He is the proprietor of everything, and that He is the best well-wisher and friend of everyone. A preacher should personally understand these truths and preach them to everyone. Then there will be peace and tranquility all over the world. The word soridam, friendliness, is very significant in this verse. People are generally ignorant of Krishna consciousness, and therefore to become their best well-wisher, one should teach them about Krishna consciousness without discrimination. Since the Supreme Lord Vishnu is situated in the core of everyone's heart, everybody is a temple of Vishnu. One should not misuse this understanding in an excuse for such words as Daridra Narayana. If Narayana lives in the house of a Daridra, a poor man, this does not mean that Narayana becomes poor. He lives everywhere, in the houses of the poor and those of the rich. But in all circumstances he remains Narayana. To think that he becomes either poor or rich is a material calculation. He is always Shadashvadya Purna, full in 6 opulences in all circumstances. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Svaparantika Namasreshna Manumapi Sachiputra Matra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Grajam Urupurim Maturingo Stavritim Radakundaviri Girivaram Horadike Madhavasam Praptoya Sapatita Kripaya Sri Gurum Tam Natosmi. I chose to start here in this part of the Leela of Lord Nrsimhadeva because of the purport, really. I read through all this section yesterday and the day before, and this purport really jumped out and struck me, and also it's a very simple verse to learn in Anushtup, and very many common words in this text for us to remember. So, this therefore tasmat sarveshu bhurteshu doyam kuruta soridam. We have the devotees of the Lord, as Prabhupada explains in this purport, show mercy to the conditioned souls by preaching, by sharing, by giving Krishna consciousness. Even if we're not properly educated, Prabhupada says, if we know 3 things and somehow we internalize those 3 things and we become fixed in those 3 things. What are those 3 things that we have to learn? Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, Bhaktaram. One from the ladies' side. Krishna is sorry? He? Every time you said something, the door closed or opened. Giving up the demoniac nature, yeah. But in this purport, Prabhupada mentioned 3 things. He's the Bhaktaram, he's the supreme enjoyer, he's the proprietor of everything, he's the well-wisher of everybody, that is in this verse, Soridam, and He's a friend. He's the friend, well-wisher of everybody, and Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He's the supreme master of all the planets, is Krishna. And that, Prabhupada says, will bring peace. Will bring peace and tranquility to the entire world. If we realize that and we preach that. And in this hero's journey of the so-called ordinary world and the special world, it is that something that is very unique in the devotee's journey in Krishna consciousness is when we get this knowledge of Krishna consciousness, we are called by Krishna, by the acharyas, by the process to take it back to the world and to give it back. That is the gift that we have, to give back. And as we give back to the world in our journey back, then we become more enlivened, we become more convinced, we become more Krishna conscious by giving. So we receive and we give Krishna consciousness. That is where we start our journey. And by the way, this chapter is the section that incites Nrsimhadeva's appearance, because even though it's not the chapter next to the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadeva, it's only chapter 6 still, but it's Prahlad's instructions to his demoniac schoolmates are what Sandhanamaka they could not tolerate, because they had convinced Hiranyakashipu, who tried to kill Prahlad in so many ways, that just wait till Śrīmad gets back. Śrīmad is out at the moment. Wait till he gets back. When he gets back, he'll straighten out Prahlad. He'll fix him up. And we're here, we're teachers, we're expert teachers. We can also fix him up. But then when Prahlad's preaching became so effective in the Gurukula, and the Sandhanamaka saw that all the boys were becoming very enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness, they gave up hope. And they went to Hiranyakashipu and said, it's all over, we can't control this boy anymore. It's happened, everybody became Krishna conscious. So you have to do something with him. And then he starts to abuse him. But that's not when he throws him off his lap. I'll get to that point. That's still in the second act of the hero's journey, where he throws him down and Nrsimhadeva appears. But I wanted to start there with the preaching and Prabhupada's focus on, and Prahlad Maharaj's focus on mercy and becoming a real friend of the living entities. And Prabhupada says many beautiful things in this purport. One of them is that every living entity is a temple. Everybody is a temple of Vishnu. And therefore we respect every living entity, because when we offer obeisances to the devotees or to the living entities, we're acknowledging that Krishna is in the heart of the living entities. It's a very important thing to remember, and therefore we'll tread more cautiously when we deal with people, particularly devotees, that they're a walking temple. And I think we'll just move on to the next section, skipping a few chapters here, and we're going to go from chapter 6 to chapter 9, and this is prayers that pacify Lord Nrsimhadeva. You know that when Lord Nrsimhadeva appeared, many devotees, many demigods, many personalities offered prayers. Lord Indra offered prayers, Lord Brahma offered prayers, Shiva offered prayers, Gandharvas offered prayers, Rishis offered prayers, Gandharva, everybody offered prayers. Sages and so many personalities from Satyaloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka offered their prayers to Lord Nrsimhadeva. But he didn't seem to become appeased. He was still very angry, and he was still like shaking and trembling, and still nobody could work out how to appease the Lord and to bring about peace in the palace Hiranyakashipu, who was still on the lap of Lord Nrsimhadev. So then, what happens is the great boon that Prahlad Maharaj receives is that he receives Lord Nrsimhadev's hand on his head. It's a very beautiful pastime and visual image for us. And there's a beautiful BBT painting of this, of Lord Nrsimhadev with a very beautiful smiling face, Hasya Nrsimha. He's got a beautiful smile on his face and he's got his hand on Prahlad Maharaj's head. Sometimes, some of you may have been to Ahobalam, which is a wonderful pilgrimage site place for Lord Nrsimhadev, and it's run by the Sri Vaishnavas, wonderful sampradaya Sri Vaishnavas. And there are 9 main temples, and you climb hills and mountains and go through rugged terrain to go to these temples. And there's Ugra Stamba there. You can climb up a mountain cliff that is a vertical cliff. It's a stamba, they say, that Lord Nrsimhadev burst out of to appear to protect his dear devotee Prahlad. So there in some of those temples, Lord Nrsimhadev has a different appearance in every temple. Sometimes he's laughing and smiling. Sometimes it's Hasya Nrsimha. Sometimes he's in a very ferocious mood. He's in his Ugra mood. Ugra Nrsimha. Ugram Viryam Mahavishnum Jvalantam Sarvato Mukam. Nrsimham, you know it? Say it. Beautiful. Wow. I really got a sense that Lord Nrsimhadev was appearing and he was so ferocious. He's putting fear into death personified, Lord Nrsimhadev. This is a verse that's chanted by all the Vaishnavas. Ugram Vida Mahavishnu. Lord Chaitanya recited this verse. Lord Chaitanya was he recited many verses about Lord Nrsimhadev. Even Lord Ramchandra, there's a beautiful stuti that Lord Ramchandra composed in glorification of Lord Ramchandra, in glorification of Lord Nrsimhadev, Lord Ramchandra. And we know that Nrsimhadev is the Ishtadeva of Lord Krishna, of Krishna's family. Lord Nrsimhadev is their deity. So Nrsimhadev holds a very, very special place in the worship and the heart of the followers of Lord Krishna, because he's the deity of Krishna's family. And Ramchandra glorified him, and Lord Chaitanya glorified Lord Nrsimhadev. When Lord Chaitanya went for his darshan in Jagannath Puri of Lord Jagannath, every day he would climb all the steps up to Lord Jagannath for darshan, and there's a Nrsimhadev deity there. And he would sing he would recite a very famous verse there. Namaste Nrsimhaya Praladhalad Hiranyakashipu Shilatanka Nakalaya. He would sing it every day. So we get that from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Ito Nrsimha. Same, every day. These 2 verses he would recite at the Jagannath temple. And it said every 12 or so years, sometimes longer, in Jagannath Puri, Lord Jagannath, the deity is changed over. They changed the deity over in a very special festival, special arrangement that they make. And for part of that, the ceremony is the recitation of Nrsimha mantra, of a Gayatri mantra of Lord Nrsimhadev, and they chant it 20,000 times, this mantra for Lord Nrsimhadev. They say that Lord Jagannath, some of the pujaris are saying that Lord Jagannath was Nrsimhadev in a previous kalpa. Lord Jagannath, same personality, but in a different kalpa. So he's got a very strong connection in Jagannath Puri also. So Nrsimhadev is everywhere, you can say. Ito Nrsimha, Parato Nrsimha. So back to our point of Prahlad Maharaj gets the mercy. And when he gets the mercy, that's the ultimate boon that we receive in the hero's journey. The hero gets a boon. He goes through some great transformation, and there's tests and trials and tribulations, and we know Prahlad Maharaj went through them all. He went under the feet of elephants. What else did Prahlad have to experience? Yes? He was pushed off a mountain. Yes? He was locked in a room with snakes. He was put into hot oil. Yes, Krishna. He was thrown into a stampede. That's a great word for a little kid, isn't it? A stampede of wild elephants. Yes? Nanda. He was put into fire. Fire of ordeal. The ordeal of fire. He was given a poison cake. He was? Tridents. He was attacked by the tridents. Chop him up, pierce him. You know the dramas that we do. Maybe tonight I'll put a little plug in for the drama now, midway and at the end also. There's a special kids drama tonight and teens. And any adult that's game to get through, sneak in, can try, but they're not supposed to. But I've already told a few people that I might be getting in the back door. There's a special storytelling session tonight of Lord Nrsimhadeva at 5 o'clock. 5 to 6 in the theatre, and come prepared. Chant your Nrsimha mantras because you're going to need some protection. All right? That's all I can say for now. Just get ready. Recite the Nrsimha Kavatra today during the day, and you'll be prepared. So Prahlad, he went through trials. He went through his tribulations. And he received the boon of Lord Nrsimhadeva's hand, Kara Prasada, on his head, Padma Kara Prasada. And because of that, Lord Brahma is saying, look, we all recited these mantras, we all recited these prayers, nothing happened. Lord Nrsimhadeva is still screaming, he's still very angry, we can't pacify him. You have to go there. Only you can do this. So they pushed Prahlad in front of him. Prahlad was not scared at all. In the 10th canto, Akrura offers many prayers, Akrura's prayers in the 10th canto. And he says a prayer to Lord Nrsimhadeva and to Vamanadeva. Namaste Bhutta Simhaya. He says he offers his obeisances to this wonderful form of Lord Nrsimhadeva. Sadhu Loka Bhayapaha. He takes away the fear of all the devotees. Sadhu Loka Bhayapaha. Maybe you could recite that prayer today. Namaste Bhutta Simhaya Sadhu Loka Bhayapaha. See if we can remember that. Namaste. 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 Namaste Bhutta Simhaya. Namaste Bhutta Simhaya. Sadhu Loka Bhayapaha. Sadhu Loka Bhayapaha. Namaste Bhutta Simhaya. Sadhu Loka Bhayapaha. Okay, that will get you, that's your ticket into the hall tonight. You don't have to pay, you just have one mantra that will get you in the hall. No problem. Just say that. Namaste Bhutta Simhaya. So, Prahlad is fearless. He has no fear. He's got Lord Nrsimhadeva's special mercy. And now, because of that, he has this special knowledge to take back to the other world. Right? He's back into the threshold. And that part of that knowledge that he takes back is the attitude of the devotee. He wants to demonstrate. He's a hero, so he's demonstrating qualities, characteristics, values of a devotee. And particularly he understands that it's only by Krishna's mercy that he was successful, that he was protected, not by his own endeavors. So in this verse, many of you may be familiar with this verse. It's a very often quoted verse in terms of Lord Nrsimhadeva, Prahlad Maharaj's prayers to pacify Nrsimhadeva. Balasya neha sharanam pitaro Nrsimha. It finishes off, Natasya chadgadamudan vantima jito no, taptasya tat pratividhi yahi anjasheshdas. Then he says, Tavad vibhotanubritam tvarupekshitanam. Tvarupekshitana means one who is neglected by Krishna, one who is neglected by Lord Nrsimhadeva. He can't be successful. Parents can't protect the son or the daughter. That's in the first line. Balasya neha sharanam pitaro. Even without Lord Nrsimhadeva's acceptance, without Nrsimhadeva's guidance and protection, nothing will be successful. Nor can medicine or a physician cure a diseased person without Krishna's mercy. In Ayurveda there is a mantra that they say that when you take the Oshadhi, then you should Vishnu Chintayet. You should remember Lord Vishnu. Oshadham Chintayet Vishnu. Then you've got a chance of being successful with your medication. We went to an Ayurvedic doctor in Malaysia, and he was giving the medications, what you should take, and when you should take the medication. And I said to him, he's in a very nice clinic, and he had Bhagavatam in his clinic. Right? Full Bhagavatam set. And we stayed there for 5 weeks and read this 7th canto while we were there. And he said, I said to him, what about, because you have to take food with this and you have to take it at this particular time of day. I said, what about on fast days? What about on Ekadashi? What about on the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadeva, on the appearance of Krishna on Janmashtami? Should we eat the food, and should we eat and take the medicine? And he said, on those days, on the appearance day of the Lord, and on Ekadashi day, the fasting and the following the proper procedure will give you hundreds of times more benefit than the medicine on the fast day. And he's a very strict Ayurvedic doctor, but he said that the medicine will, the process of Madhavatiti Bhakti Janani. Bhaktivedanta Thakur says that following the Madhavatiti, and Prabhupada translates that as Ekadashi and Janmashtami and the fast days, not just Ekadashi. Madhavatiti Bhakti Janani. It's the mother of devotion when we follow these particular days. So medicine and a physician can't cure a patient unless we have Krishna's hand in there. And a boat on the ocean can't rescue a stranded person in the ocean unless Krishna's there. The boat can be right there. The life buoy can be there. But unless Krishna's hand is there, you won't see the buoy, you won't touch it. It could be 2 meters away. So that's Prahlad Maharaj's one of the gems that he takes back after Lord Nrsimhadeva has given special blessing. And the verse that's particularly in remembrance of that is that he says, in all humility, trying to understand how is it that Krishna, Lord Nrsimhadeva, gave me so much mercy. He says, Kvaham Raja Prabhava Isho Tamodike Smin Jata Suretara Kule Kvatavanu Kampa. Now he says something that is repeated in many different places in the Bhagavatam. We hear it in the pastime of Damodar pastime, in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. Na Brahmano, not exactly the same words, but Na Brahmano no na Bhavasya Navaira Maya. Not Lord Brahma, not Shiva, nor the goddess of fortune. They didn't get the same mercy as Prahlad got. And in the Damodar pastime, they didn't get the same mercy as Yashoda Maya. But in this pastime, they didn't get the same mercy as Prahlad. Prahlad got the hand of the Lord on his head. It's Yanme Pita Shirasi Padma Kara Prasada. He got the mercy of the Lord's hand, Shirasi, on his head. So that is a very special blessing and special mercy that Prahlad carries with him and takes back. And now he's got this special mercy. He does not stay in that special world in the Act 2. He wants to give that mercy. Sometimes we think, well, I got the mercy, I've become Krishna conscious, I'm initiated, I'm signed up, I chant Hare Krishna, I follow in the 4 regs, that's it. That's the beginning. Prabhupada said many times that's the beginning of our Krishna consciousness. The other night we were here and there was some really expert cooked the 7 o'clock offering, right? With nice cakes and savories and sweets and everything like that. We don't come so often at 7 o'clock, so we don't know who are the good cooks and who aren't. But a lot of people know who they are, so they come here at 7 o'clock. They say, okay, today's Wednesday. Okay, text message goes out, everybody's at the temple. 7 o'clock, right? It's packed. Where do everyone come for? So they all run upstairs, and they're waiting for the prasadam. The prasadam came on trays, like 4 trays, plates made up with cake and cream and gulab jamuns and kachoris and everything on the plates. And within 3 seconds it was gone. Bang, it was just like, what happened, you know? We're not used to that. We don't know what happens on Wednesday night. We just say, oh yeah, we'll go up for prasad. We'll go and see what the Mahaprasadam looks like. We got out there, 4 empty trays. That's what the Mahaprasad looks like on Wednesday. Don't go there on Wednesday. But one devotee, he was preaching to some new people, some newcomers, and he felt very sad because the newcomers didn't get any prasadam. And he was trying to kind of get the devotees off, wrestle them away, saying, go away, and he had a tray with 4 or 5 plates on him, and they were all like beating him up for these plates. And they're thinking, oh, look, he's so greedy, he's taking 5 plates home for himself and his wife. But he was grabbing the plates for his people that he was preaching to. And then I came up with my wife, and then someone said, oh, you should give something to Prabhuji. He just came up, and Mataji. I said, no, it's okay. There's so many guests here like that. And I could see he was preaching to these guests. He was doing the right thing. Let him do it. Then he texted me afterwards, and he apologized, and he was so humble in his apology, but he was actually doing the right thing. And we were quite surprised that the devotees did that. They just like swamped on this like seagulls at the beach, just ripped apart this offering. But the prasad is for the devotees for sure. But first we look out for guests. Guests who have come, they get number 1 priority, and children. Of course, many of them were children. So what can you say? But there was quite a few adults in there too. In the scrum. So, let's look after we go back into the world. We don't want to stay here in this special world. We want to take the special world back to the so-called normal world where people can relate, and they can't relate to that devotees fighting over that amazing 7 o'clock prasadam. Can't relate to that. We line up, we take prasad, we offer prasad properly like that. So, the next thing that Prahlad says, and we've got 2 more to go. Beautiful verses. This is getting towards the end of his prayers, and his prayers are long. I didn't count them, but there's maybe 50 prayers in this section. Do you know about that? 50-something prayers. So here, this prayer and the next one are very closely related. I'll read both of them. The translation for 43, O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence, for wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and the rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. This is Prahlad Maharaj's realization that he's not concerned for himself, he's concerned for others. Devotees who have been through this journey, we have compassion for the conditioned souls, doyam, sodidam, and the real compassion manifests in giving them the Mahaprasad. The real compassion manifests in giving them the knowledge. Real compassion manifests in giving them association. Going back and giving them, and so that they too can start their journey and cross that first threshold into the special world that we all experienced. Everybody in this room experienced that leap of faith. that we said, yes, I want to be a devotee. I want to be a part of this special world. And all of us have experienced our trials and tribulations. Everybody, allies and enemies, experience in Krishna consciousness, some more so and some less so. And all of us have a mentor. That's the characteristic of this hero's journey, that there's a mentor, there's somebody who's directing us and encouraging us and inspiring us to take that leap of faith and to make a conviction, to develop a strong conviction in our Krishna consciousness lifestyle. And all of us have received a great blessing and boon. And I was thinking about, what is my boon? What is my sword that I received in this final act where I go back and that I can give to others? And personally, and I think for many devotees, it's Srila Prabhupada's books. That was something that we receive as a great benediction, a great boon, Srila Prabhupada's books. And then receiving them and reading them and practicing to live a lifestyle based on those books, and then giving that opportunity to others is a great. That's how we go back home, back to Godhead. It's how we go back into the so-called normal world, and we represent Krishna. The devotees, the parampara. And in this final verse that I wanted to share with you today from Prahlad's prayers, my dear Lord Nrsimhadeva, and this purport is an amazing purport, and we'll read most of this purport. My dear Lord Nrsimhadeva, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns like Melbourne. They go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence, Maunavrata. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter at your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet. That's the conclusion, that's the journey. He wants to bring everybody back. That's going back with that knowledge, that special knowledge of Krishna consciousness, and giving it to others. Nearly every sentence in this purport is important. This is the decision of the Vaishnava, the pure devotee of the Lord. For himself, he has no problems, even if he has to stay in this material world, because his only business is to remain in Krishna consciousness. The Krishna conscious person can go even to hell and still be happy. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj said, Naivadvijay paraduratyaya vaitaranyaha. O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence. The pure devotee is never unhappy in any condition of life. This is confirmed in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 6:17-28, where the verse is Narayana parasave nakutaschana bibhyati. The devotees can go anywhere, to hellish planets, to the heavenly planets, wherever they are, they do Krishna's service. For a devotee to be situated in the heavenly planets or being in the hellish planets are equal. And then I wanted to jump over to Prabhupada's purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement. So the devotees has no such interest in going to meditate in the Himalayas or the forest. Rather, his interest is in the busiest part of the world, where he teaches people Krishna consciousness. Devotees want to go to Shanghai and Beijing and Delhi and Mumbai. How many temples in Delhi? 16 temples in Delhi, 18 temples in Delhi, and more coming. Every day they add another temple to the city. Rohini, Dwarka, you mentioned that they've got a temple, they're building temples everywhere, and big temples, not preaching centers I'm talking. Noida, talking big temples, what they call educational, cultural centers. So they're in the busy cities where we can meet maximum amount of people in these cities. And I'm looking at Devaki Mataji, who preaches a lot in Bangladesh, and sometimes not in big cities, but in huge towns or villages that can attract thousands of people, right? Thousands and thousands of people come for these festivals, and they walk for miles, and they stay overnight, and the next night too, because there's no transport back home. They're walking on foot to come to these festivals in glorification of the Lord. So devotees are interested in these busy... One devotee in the Prabhupada recollections, he said to Prabhupada he wanted to be a brahmachari, and he was struggling a little with his ashram. And he said, Prabhupada, I think I'll go to Rishikesh. I think I'll go to Himalaya and do my bhajan there, chant Hare Krishna. And he said, Prabhupada turned around to him with tears in his eyes, and he said, please don't do that. Don't go to Rishikesh. You want to go to the cities, preach Krishna consciousness. That will be the best thing you can do for your ashram and your varna. The Krishna consciousness movement was started for this purpose, for preaching. We do not teach one to meditate in a secluded place just so that one may show that he has become very much advanced and may be proud of his so-called transcendental meditation, although he engages in all sorts of foolish materialistic activity. A Vaishnava like Prahlad Maharaj is not interested in such a bluff of spiritual advancements. Rather, he is interested in enlightening people in Krishna consciousness because that is the only way for them to become happy. Prahlad Maharaj says clearly, Nanyam tvadashya sharanam brahmato nupashye. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. One wanders within the universe life after life, but by the grace of a devotee, a servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can get the clue to Krishna consciousness. And then, not only become happy in this world, but also return home back to Godhead. One can get the clue to Krishna consciousness as the mentor, and then crossing the threshold, experiencing the trials and tribulations, and going back home, back to Godhead. We all have a hero's journey to engage in. And what an adventure Krishna consciousness is. What an adventure it's been for us all, and what adventures we still have in store. That is the real target in life. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement are not at all interested in so-called meditation in Himalayas or the forest, where one will make only a show of meditation. Nor are they interested in opening many schools for yoga and meditation in the cities. Rather, every member of the Krishna consciousness movement is interested in going door to door to try to convince people about the teachings of Bhagavad Gita as it is, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That is the purpose of the Hare Krishna movement. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement must be fully convinced that without Krishna, one cannot be happy. Thus, the Krishna conscious person avoids all kinds of pseudo-spiritualists, transcendentalists, meditators, monists, philosophers, and philanthropists. Srila Prabhupada could probably keep going there with a few more, but that's where he finishes his amazing purport. So I'd like to finish there with a meditation to summarize Prahlad's hero's journey, that with the understanding that the journey begins and ends with the mercy. It begins and ends with the mercy of the mentor, the spiritual master. We have some vague understanding, some vague direction, some vague implication that we don't really exist here in the material world. This is not a place for happiness. It's not the sukha alaya, it's a dukkha alaya. So then we get the mercy of the devotee. In some form or other, we get the mercy through a book or through the association or through prasadam. And we have to make that mercy available to others, because everyone in this room, every child, every adult, every man, every woman, every senior citizen in this room has the capacity to be a mentor to somebody who hasn't got any Krishna consciousness or who's got a little bit of Krishna consciousness, and to bring them up further in their journey, in their own personal journey in Krishna consciousness, so that they can become happy and peaceful. And ultimately to receive that the hand of the Lord on our head, Shirasi Padmakara Prasada. That is what the devotees are looking for. We want to get that blessing of the Lord on the head. And that blessing of the Lord on the head comes from service, selfless service. The more we serve Krishna, the more we serve the Vaishnavas, the more we become convinced about the purpose of our life, then the more likely we are to attract that blessing of the Lord, to get Krishna's personal touch on our head. One time, when Madhvisa Swami Prabhu, he finished the big Ratha Yatra festival, massive Ratha Yatra festival, I think it was here in Melbourne. And he didn't say in the Prabhupada recollections, I was going to check in Corm's book, but I'm pretty sure it was here in Melbourne, the big Ratha Yatra that finished up at the Fitzroy Gardens in the exhibition buildings. And they had massive... You remember that, Mataji, that Ratha Yatra in Melbourne? You weren't here? Sorry? You're in Europe, that's right. Sorry. So there was a big Ratha Yatra here, and Madhvisa went up to Prabhupada afterwards, and he was kneeling on his... He went to kneel down, and Prabhupada was in the car. Prabhupada was getting in the car going back from the program. And he said, Prabhupada, was everything okay? And Prabhupada put his hand on his head. And he said, Madhvisa, it was first class. So that is a blessing that we want to get from Srila Prabhupada, from the devotees. The hand, yes? Mike? Mike. But there's people that are watching. Mic up. Surabhi Mataji is going to add something to this one.
Okay. Later on, Madhvisa had some difficulty, and he actually went incognito a little bit, and the devotees criticized him a lot for what he'd done. And Prabhupada said, no, don't do this, or you will spoil any attempt for him to come back. And then when Prabhupada was leaving this world, he had many male disciples. And he said, where is my son? Where is my son? And the devotees were looking around the room, wondering which son he wanted. And he said, where is my son, Madhvisa? Yeah. So he did so much. And Prabhupada really appreciated him. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Surabhi Mataji. And I remember Madhvisa Prabhu, who did so much here in the Australian Yatra, and he is responsible for so for everything that, not everything, but for so much that we have here today, particularly in this temple, the opening of this temple in 1975, and the purchasing of this temple, etc., etc. But when Prabhupada was leaving his body, he had asked for devotees before that, before he came back into Vrindavan, to bring Madhvisa back to Vrindavan. He was living in Hawaii. And so the devotees went to Hawaii, or they got message in Hawaii that Prabhupada wants to meet you. And he had married, and he said, I can come to Vrindavan after my first child is born. And so he ended up coming to Vrindavan with Shruta Krishna Prabhu. And when he came to Vrindavan, he got to Delhi, and he said his hair was a bit long. And so he went to a barber in the train station, and had his hair shaved, and left a long seeker. And they took him. They went out to Vrindavan, and they went straight to Prabhupada's rooms in Vrindavan. And they said to Prabhupada, they announced, Prabhupada, Madhvisa Prabhu has arrived. And Prabhupada was very sick, and he sat up on his bed, and he hadn't sat up for many days. And he saw Madhvisa, and he had a big smile on his face, and he said, "Oh, Madhvisa's kept such a nice seeker." And Prabhupada, knowing full well that Madhvisa had long hair, and this was a long hair seeker. And then he said, "Madhvisa, why did you stay away so long?" He said, "Oh, Prabhupada, I had a child." Then he said, "Where is your wife? You didn't bring your wife." And he said, "No, Prabhupada, we just had a first child." And he said, "Prabhupada, I named my child Abhay Charan. Is that okay?" And Prabhupada said, "That's very nice. You can." So Prabhupada blessed Madhvisa so many times. I mean, the famous one is at the end in the Premadwani in the exhibition buildings, when Prabhupada said, he went through the Premadwani ki jai, and then he said, "Madhvisa Maharaj ki jai." So we didn't read the pastime of Lord Nrsimhadeva appearing from the pillar. Tonight you have to go to the theatre for that. The theatre at 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and you'll hear the amazing description, pastime. Lord Nrsimhadeva will appear, and I heard he's appearing in person tonight. He will appear. Prahlad Maharaj is appearing, and I'm sure Hiranyakashipu will be somewhere around. Probably on the lap of Lord Nrsimhadeva. So you don't have to look far. Be there tonight. And there will be a class here tonight, of course, in the temple, and I'm pretty sure the devotee giving the class tonight will be reading from that section of the Bhagavatam, where Lord Nrsimhadeva bursts out of the pillar, which is a favorite part, and the beautiful description in the Sanskrit of the 7th canto in the Bhagavatam. Any reflections, comments? Any sharing for Lord Nrsimhadeva's pleasure? Yes?
Prabhuji, you mentioned that in one kalpa Lord Jagannath is Lord Nrsimhadev, and vice versa. How can you please explain more on that, how that works?
That's a little technical question, but every kalpa has an avatar, and this kalpa that we're in is a Krishna avatar kalpa. And there is Nrsimha avatar kalpa. So I guess that, I shouldn't guess, but there is I believe it's in the Laghu Bhagavatam Rita, I'm not sure because I haven't read it all, but that's the quote that I heard from Gaur Govinda Maharaj, that if you want to research that further, some of his disciples will be able to. Madhavananda Prabhu will definitely be able to tell you. Maybe Gopa Prabhu. No. But that's just it was in a class that he gave about Lord Nrsimhadeva, and he was making the point that in Jagannath Puri there's a strong connection with Lord Nrsimhadeva. There's a Nrsimhamurti in the temple. The Nrsimhadeva's presence is there, and the Nrsimha Gayatri Mantra is chanted 20,000 times for the reinstallation of the deity. And Krishna can take many forms. We know that he can have multiple manifestations, And so his devotees can have multiple manifestations. And what I remember now, what Maharaj said was that it's inconceivable to understand these truths. They're inconceivable to understand how Krishna's devotees can manifest and can enter into different devotees, shaktis. It's said that he was talking about Kamsa, I remember, that Kamsa is the Bhaya avatar. He's an avatar of fear, Kamsa. And he's saying how, we have in different avatars, they manifest different potencies. But Lord Nrsimhadeva, Lord Ramchandra and Lord Krishna are the full Purna, Sadguna avatars. Therefore, and Krishna has the most, of course. He has his sweetness and his beauty and his flute playing and his lila. So I can't give much detail on that, where that comes from. Anything else? Gyan, bro?
One of our pastimes in the early days that we're doing Saturday night Sankirtan, Harinam in King's Cross. It was we're going back 1976. Anyway, it was a pretty hairy situation in which the devotees were doing it. It was dark. It must have been winter night or something, but it was dark. And the devotees had gone down King's Cross, the Harinam party. And in those days it was pretty hairy. I mean, even the prostitutes on the top there, they were throwing their buckets onto us, So it was kind of like, pretty rough. Anyway, we were down at the end of King's Cross there, and then we got surrounded by some pretty heavy guys. They were bikies. And they surrounded the whole party. And we were wondering what to do, Actually, we couldn't do anything. We were surrounded by these guys, and they were out to actually get us. And then we chanted Nrsimhadeva prayers. And somehow or other, it just melted. The whole, this crowd of thugs just melted away, and the party was able to just slice through them and continue on chanting. But if we hadn't chanted Nrsimhadeva prayers, then I don't think there would have been a bloodbath. These guys were out to get us. They wanted a Saturday night entertainment with the Hare Krishnas. They were bikies, they were pretty ferocious guys. And it was dark, and it was King's Cross, so right out of our element. But we took shelter in the Nrsimhadeva, and he just empowered them from within their hearts to step back and let us through. Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada told the devotee, he taught the Nrsimhadeva prayers, or told them that they should chant the Nrsimhadeva prayers first, I think in San Francisco Rathayatra. And there was riots in those days in the 60s, late 60s. There were a lot of riots, and between blacks and the whites, there was a lot of tension. And Prabhupada was there in one time in San Francisco and at Rathayatra, and he was waiting to go there, and the devotee said, "You can't come, Prabhupada, it's too dangerous. There's big riots happening on the streets, and it could become very violent." And then Prabhupada told them that they should be chanting Nrsimhadeva prayers there, to chant before the procession, Nrsimhadeva prayers, and chant after the procession. And they did. They chanted Nrsimhadeva prayers, and Lord Jagannath took off on the procession. And of course, the devotees chanted Nrsimhadeva prayers for Prabhupada's protection when he was sick. Yes? Did you have your hand up, Radhika? No, sorry. Anyone else? Okay, what's the mantra to get into the hall tonight? Namaste Bhutta Simhaya. This is especially for the kids. Adults not allowed in anyway. Maybe if you chant the Nrsimhadeva or something, you might get in. Namaste Buddha Simhaya. Sadhu Loka Bhayapaha. Some of them are writing it down on their hand. Even she's got a pencil and she's trying to write in the hand, engraving it in the hand with the pencil. Nice one. Namaste Buddha Simhaya. Sadhu Loka Bhayapaha. Shri Nrsimhadeva Bhagavan ki. And I saw some of the parents recording it so that they can give it to their kids on their phones. It's in the prayers of Akuru in the Bhagavatam if you want to look it up during the day. Vamanaya namastubhyam kranta tribhuvanaya cha. Right? We chant that every day, that's why I know it. Because it's a prayer to Nrsimhadeva and to Lord Vamanadev. Shri Nrsimhadeva Bhagavan ki. Prahlad Maharaj ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Go Premanandi.